Guys, welcome back to another episode of Always Making. Thanks for joining us here in the studio again. We have another great, talented local artist guest, and we're going to get into a really great conversation about what you are doing for the art community, the creative process that they have, and then your whole art journey as well. Before we do, guys, do what you're supposed to do. Like, comment, subscribe. If you know any local artists out in the Salt Lake or greater Salt Lake area, have them reach out to us. You actually were told by Falcon Craft to come and reach out to us. You came by at one of the shows, said hi, and then we're like, okay, we'll get in touch with you as soon as we can kind of get a schedule figured out. But I'm glad you're here. We can have this conversation. Guys, we're going to jump right into this here. We have Casey Peak from Seeds of Imagination. How did this all get started for you? Let's start there.
Oh gosh, that's I guess Seeds of Imagination itself got started with a Kickstarter for the deck of cards that I created. But my art journey starts way before that, so I don't know where you want me to
Let's start with the art side of things, because I think the art side of thing has driven you to this step here in your career, your path, your journey, however we want to call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where did the art come from? So I'll break this down a little bit, looking back at a couple of your things. There's watercolor, there's collage, there's diorama, there's what looks like ornaments and jewelry, and what is there something else I'm missing in there?
No, I don't think so. Yeah,
I covered most of them.
Yeah,
okay.
So like a lot of artists into a lot of different things.
Yeah, and that's actually what drove me to the diorama, is because I can do everything. Mm-hmm. I can create anything I want for the diorama because I've done so many different art forms.
Okay, so now let's get into where did that all start?
Okay, so years ago, I was actually having a bout of really bad depression, and I found a book called Creative Awakenings. Have you heard of this book?
I can't say I have, no.
It's an amazing book, but basically it gave me the freedom to create without judging myself and to be able to express myself. Mm-hmm. And I explored my creativity through this book, and it started with collage mostly. And then I worked into acrylics and watercolor and jewelry and beads and florals. And I just started experimenting with all sorts of different things. And I ended up moving from Maryland to Utah and married my husband. and then while I was here, I started writing. So I also write. And I met some other writers. And one of the things that I really wanted to do with my creativity was create prompts for people. Mm-hmm. And the hard thing about prompts is that if you create a book of prompts, you read through them, you've read through them. And they're not worth a whole lot anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I'm going to have to keep creating more and more prompts. And then I came up with this idea to do infinite options storytelling prompts. So basically I came up with 5 different decks: who, what, where, when, and why. Mm-hmm. And with each of those decks, there's 18 different cards. And if you put them together in different combinations,
it's endless.
Yeah. It's endless. Yeah. It's amazing. And I had some really good friends, including Summer, who helped me with the Kickstarter, and it was fulfilled. And I have 500 decks that I've been selling. And and I'm also an artist at the local artisan collective.
Real quick, we had your husband interrupt and give us a little bit more. So there's landscape architecture as well?
Yeah.
we were missing one thing. Okay.
So my bachelor's degree is in landscape architecture.
Okay.
And I was laid off, and that's what prompted the depression, actually.
Okay.
In 2010, I was laid off from my job as a landscape architect. And you probably know, at that time, 2008, the housing bubble burst.
Yep. Tough time for a lot of people.
And especially for the housing market and anybody who was doing landscape architecture. So there was no way for me to get back into landscape architecture after I got laid off. Mm-hmm. So I did a whole lot of soul searching, and that's where the book came in. And yeah, so and then I have a master's in professional communication now, and that's what I
are working on now, and like
Yeah.
using that for your benefit of all of this stuff that you're doing.
Yes, exactly.
I want to get into a little bit because we didn't really get a chance to meet you at a show like that you were vending at. You just kind of came through the booth and said, "Hey, Summer said to come say hi," and
Yep.
and so cool. We made this contact. But do you do markets? Were you doing market shows and selling? Because we do see your online presence. You do have an Etsy store that you sell and your online store. But do you also do in-person selling as well?
So I haven't for a while.
Okay.
I do most of my selling through my Etsy shop, through my website, and through the local artisan collective.
Okay.
I have done markets, and I don't know whether I will do markets again because I have a full-time job too. So it's just it's really hard. It's really hard.
It's a lot, yeah. And so how far back do we go to where the Seeds of Imagination cards started? Where did that idea? So 2010, laid off, going through this process of figuring out who you are as an artist, and now where do the cards come into play?
So the cards themselves, the idea for the cards started probably back then.
Okay.
Yeah. And I started putting together a book, and I had different pages and different concepts. And I actually physically built the book out of scrap paper. And I mean, it was crazy. But the actual card idea came in actually 2020 is when I did the Kickstarter.
Okay.
So it was right in COVID time and
people may be looking for that creative, like kind of like, what do I do next? Where do I go from here?
Exactly.
Maybe in that slump of, hey man, I'm sitting at home and I don't know how to get my creative juices flowing. So there's this tool now that's available to potentially help that process through.
Yeah. And the my favorite part about the cards is that, well, there are also games, but you can I built a creative community, and the whole point of the cards is that anybody can be creative. That's what I want people to understand, is you don't have to be able to draw to be creative.
No, not at all.
You don't have to be able to sing to be creative. Like, you can do literally anything and just get your juices flowing, and you can write, you can paint, you can do screen printing, and I mean, just everything, right? Like,
so the cards
so
are
much.
not just for writers.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Well, you hit on the community. I was going to get into that conversation a little bit later too, but what I do want to go, because you do every Tuesday it's art prompt and every Wednesday is writer's prompt. Is I got that right? Okay. Is that something you're just flipping through the cards and then kind of going, okay, here's Tuesday's ideas and how that comes up?
So what we ended up doing is monthly we do the cards for a prompt on a Tuesday and on a Wednesday, but then we also do like explore the medium that you're using, try a different medium or try a different tool with your medium, try using your fingers when you're painting rather than paintbrushes, or try using I can't think of anything, but like a stamp in your modeling clay instead of using
like carving tools.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly. And or explore a specific artist that you have never explored before. Recreate something that they created and then make it your own. And just pushing people outside of their comfort zones.
This was the thing I enjoyed when you reached out and we kind of looked a little bit into it, is the community aspect. Like, we are big on building the community and helping support any way we can through the creative world that we are fortunate enough to live in and be a part of. And it's very fun. And it's, again, we go back to, we had someone here on the show who then they came on and said, hey, there's this other person, go check these people out. And like, then you can, this is the next step of the community, and continue down that line, so that you have this community that you're building with the games, with the prompts, with the whole process and everything. That's one of the reasons we wanted to have you on, to have that conversation.
Yeah.
How important is that community to building what you're doing?
Well, I think this is more important to building the community than the other way around.
Okay.
I firmly, strongly, deeply believe that people need to connect and be creative. it's so lacking in our world right now. And I just want to promote that. I just want to connect people, and the Facebook community is all around the world. Like, we've got people, we only have 500 or 600 people, but it's from all over the world. So, and it's just like bringing them together and showing them what's possible.
Well, the best part is, like, a large number isn't like a community necessarily, like that tight
Right.
It doesn't need to be.
it doesn't have to be like there's not a perfect number to say that this is the perfect amount of people to have, but like I imagine those 500-600 people that you have in there are tight and really close and want to help and support, and like when you find that group of people that are like that, like there's a bond that you don't get elsewhere, kind of thing. And so I do want to talk a little bit about like the process for the card making and going through that. So we haven't had anybody on here that's run a Kickstarter campaign. So I think that's a great little tool and tip that people might be running. Why did you go to crowdfunding, like with a Kickstarter, to get this off the ground? What was the like choice of that instead of going, hey, I'm going to self-fund this myself?
Because I really felt like I needed to know if there was a market for it.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that there were people who would want to use it. And if you crowdsource, you don't get funded unless there are people who want to
support it.
Support it. Yeah. And that's what I would recommend to anybody who wants to do a Kickstarter, is get your community started before you start the Kickstarter. Get your mailing list, get your community, get your, whatever, so that people can support you right away.
Okay. So you already had an Instagram, a Facebook, something for Seeds of Imagination, before you started the Kickstarter.
I guess what was the hardest part of the Kickstarter? Like, I'm guessing you've never made a deck of cards before. What was some of the hurdles that you had to kind of overcome to get these actually made into production and out to people?
So I designed the fronts and the backs of each one, and I had to find a company that would allow me to put a different design on the front and the back.
Okay.
Because a lot of card making companies, they put the same design on one side, and then you get to individually do on the back. And so I had to find a company that was willing to do that, and then I had to design each one. So I have 5 designs for each of the 5 decks, but then on the opposing side, which has the word, I designed the layout of that too, and it was fun, but it was a lot of work.
Yeah, I can imagine. How many cards are in the deck?
108. This two full decks plus the jokers.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so 54, so 108. Yep.
So let's break this down. Let's actually go through a quick example of how this is.
If you don't mind.
And so
not at all.
For audio listeners, we're going to best describe it as much as we can. For the visual watchers, the visual listeners, for the people watching, you can see kind of how this process goes for us. But right now, so what exactly to get yourself set up with this? What's the first step that we're going to take?
And I can help if you.
Oh, perfect.
Hand me things.
So, the each one of the decks is a different color. Okay. So I've got time, location, situation, character, and reason.
Okay.
And there's so many different ways of using the cards besides the games that you can play with them. So you can, if you're writing, let's just say you're writing, you can pull a card from each one of the decks and you've got a full prompt.
Okay.
Or if you're stuck and you're frustrated and you can't figure out why you can't move your character forward, you pull one card, a reason card, or so this reason is confidence. So maybe you're trying to figure out why they're deciding to do what they're doing, and you pull the confidence card and you're like, okay, confidence doesn't really work with my story, but it inspired me to think about this instead. And so, or you could literally do confidence, right? I love it for getting started before you actually start writing. So, pulling a set of the prompts and just starting to write a random story because what do you guys write at all?
I've dabbled.
Yeah. Okay. So a blank sheet of paper is really scary sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you actually get started, it gets your juices flowing, and then you can jump into your story and just it just flows.
Sometimes it brings up like things from the back of your head. You're like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, or I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's just say let's play one of the games. You want to play one of the games?
Sure. Let's,
okay.
Let's go.
Okay. So my favorite game is Fact or Fiction.
Okay.
And basically what you do is you pull one card, and based off of that card, you have to tell a story. And then everybody else in the group has to guess whether you're telling the truth or not.
Oh, okay. So almost like two truths and a lie, but
yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Right. So just all three of us will pull a card, and then we'll all come up with a story. All right. So what you do is you look at the card, and you can share what the card is. So mine is fear.
Okay.
And so I'm going to think of a story, true or false, tell you the story, and then you're going to try and guess whether I'm telling the truth. And you don't have to take it literally, but you do have to use the card
in some way.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So you got fear. Christy got...
I got party.
Party.
So mine was situation, party.
And then I got tropical. Okay.
Oh.
So
this sounds like a good combination of cards.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. We'll let you go first, and then kind of give us some time to think this one through a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll play this game. Okay.
Okay. Let me think for just a minute.
We're thinking just short, like 1 or 2 sentences, not like a full story.
No, I do a full story.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
no,
is that okay?
Yeah, no, you're totally fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
no, that's fine. I gotta think of more now.
Okay, I know.
Okay.
All right. So when I was in college, I was a freshman in college. You're doing the freshman in college kind of stuff, right? And I met these people who did skydiving, and they're like, "You want to go?" And I'm like, well, yeah. And I had my loan money and I used it because I had it. And so when you go skydiving, you do the tandem. Yeah. And so I went, and they did the class, and I went up in the little prop plane, the little 8-passenger prop plane, and I was like in the door, and they're like, "All right, are you ready?" And I'm like, "No." And they pushed me out, and we did 2 flips forward, a half a flip backwards, a full flip backwards. And then the best part is the free fall. Because have you guys been skydiving?
No, I haven't, but I did high dive, and the best part is once you let go.
Yeah. But the worst part is once the chute opens,
get that,
and you're like, ooh. I mean, it's beautiful. Although I went in Iowa. So
I imagine the view's still pretty great. I mean, from way up there.
You can probably see really far.
Yeah. So when we got down to the bottom, I face planted.
Oh.
So that's my story. Is it true or false?
I have no idea. You've sprinkled on lots of details, so I feel like that gives us some credence, but still could be.
But like the details seems like enough of a nuance of like everyone knows what skydiving is. I'm gonna say false.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna say true.
Okay.
I'll go against you.
So it's 99% true.
Okay.
The face plan at the end was false.
Was the false part. Okay.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. No, skydiving is not.
I want to go. I've always wanted to go.
She's wanted to go, and then when I turned 30, I thought about, or was it when I turned 25? I don't remember. I thought about driving out to one of the skydiving places just on my own, not telling anybody, not doing. And then I'm like, why the hell am I going to do that? There's no point. This is the dumbest thing. Not tell anyone I'm going to go jump out of. And then I'm like, why do I want to jump out of a plane? There's no reason to jump out of a plane. It's perfectly fine to stay on the ground. So
I did do it the next year.
Again,
but I gave my mom for Mother's Day. It was a gift for her for Mother's Day.
Oh,
so
so
my
your mom
went
jumped
with
too.
me.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I love it.
And then I
No.
married an airborne.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, plenty of jumping out of a plane then.
Yes.
Just a little. Just a little bit.
All
All
right.
right. So, okay. So, I get, go ahead. I'll let you go, Chrissy.
I don't know if I have a story fully formed yet. Do you have one ready?
Okay. I think I
Okay,
can
you go
kind of
first, and
go
then I'll go.
with it.
I'll
I'm gonna
figure out the rest of my story.
I'm gonna tell about the time I went to Montenegro. I think is Montenegro tropical? No, no, I don't think so. Right, but I will say the
Tropical travel. We'll just say it ties in.
Yes. There you go.
It ties in.
There's a part about the Montenegro out there when we were traveling for the first time. It was actually the first time I've ever been on a plane. First time I've ever went. It was to film a reality TV show, and very culture shocked. And so one of the craziest things was the tropical fruit salad that I ordered came off of the beach. So what happened was they would put all the fruit in the sand, and the cold water was keeping all the fruit, and then they'd go take the fruit and then like bring it to like where they were serving, cut it all up, and then give you that like tropical fruit salad. So, but it was the craziest thing because like I have a picture of a watermelon like sitting in the sand at the beach that we're like on. But yeah, I think that was like that was 2008 when I left on that trip for Montenegro. But yeah, that's
2009, but yeah.
No, 2008. It was the summer of 2008. Croatia was 2009.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But okay, so that's
the hard part is like I think I know whether or not this is true.
So, but I mean that's my story.
I think I know.
Well, that's the beauty of this game because my husband and I play this game, and I learn new things about him every time we play. It's so much fun.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna weigh in.
Okay.
Because I think I know.
I'll let you weigh in after.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna say false.
okay.
So I think it's mostly true. I think same thing. I think it's not 100% true.
Okay, Christy, do you know the part that's false?
So I feel like I remember a photo of a watermelon in the sand, but I don't think you ordered a tropical fruit salad. Exactly. I'm like,
okay, that was the false part.
Okay.
I was trying to get the
like,
word tropical
there's
in
no
there.
way he ordered tropical fruit salad in Montenegro, but I do remember a photo of a watermelon in the sand.
I do have a photo of a watermelon in the beach, and they were the locals. That's how they kept their fruit. Like they just popped like watermelons and stuff in middle of summer, and they were just letting the ocean water keep the stuff cold. And I thought it was hilarious just seeing like half of a watermelon sticking out of the sand. But we were just on some random beach, so there was no like place to order tropical fruit salad. I was like, how do I spin this a little bit better? Because Christy knows.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure I know this. Okay, that makes it my turn. Okay, so I got party. Okay, so the only thing that comes to mind, and I only thought of this because I use this all the time in Two Truths and One Lie, so I have to figure out if it's true or not. But there was a slumber party that my friends and I had, and it was high school. It was me and two of my best friends, and we were camping in the backyard in a tent for a slumber party because it's a fun thing girls do. I don't know. And so it gets real late at night. You know, we're up late. And that's part of the reason we wanted to have a summer party in the backyard is so that we could be up late without my parents being like, you girls need to quiet down. So we're in the backyard. We're in the tents. We're up late. We'd been playing games and having fun. And then if Derek knows this, but my parents, we have a pool in the backyard. And so, of course, my friend and I look at each other and we get the idea. And we're like, oh, there's a pool in the backyard. And it's like after midnight. Everybody's asleep. It's real dark outside. I think we should go skinny dipping. We're like, well, should we do this? Should we go skinny dipping? Like, because you should know, like, we're all like straight A students, like good girls, quote unquote. So this is like a big deal. This isn't like, yeah, let's go skinny dipping. We're like, should we do this? You know? So 2 of the 3 of us decide we're gonna go skinny dipping, but we're like, well, how do we do this logistically? Because again, straight A students, we're like, we got to think through this. You know, we can't just go skinny dipping. So we have. I don't even know if we had towels or anything. I think we had grabbed blankets. So we try and like strip, down to our birthday suits with the blankets on, get out of the tent, like maneuver out of the tent, but try and be quiet because heaven forbid, wake up my parents, trying to be quiet. And then so my friend and I go, woman decided to skinny dip with me, goes on opposite sides of the like shallow end of the pool, and we like turn our backs, we face away from each other, turn our backs to each other. We slide into the pool, like, drop the blanket, slide in the pool real slowly, and then we're just like in the pool with just our heads peeking out of the water. I'm like, this is so fun. We're skinny dipping as we're just like wading around the shallow end of the pool. And then we have to figure out again how to like, okay, now we got to go back to opposite ends of the pool and get out and get our blankets and then get back in the tent and get our clothes back on.
That is so
But
funny.
that is my like 2 truths and 1 lie, because I was gonna be like, I went skinny dipping once. So you have to decide.
I think that's 100% true.
I don't recall this story going this direct. I think it's a lie. So
100% true.
Okay, so we kind of 2 of us fibbed a little, and 1 of us told.
I was like,
truth.
do I try and spin a lie? And I was like, no, I gotta stick with the truth.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
that that makes it one of those things. We're just playing that game where, again, there's no like rhyme or reason to like needing to have a final result for it, but you're just hanging out, having this fun kind of like almost like a truth or 2 lies kind of game, but just telling a story and like being creative in a way that doesn't have an end, like I guess an end result that like you need to be like, oh, I have this thing now that I'm going to sell or I'm going to like put out into the world. You're just having fun with creativity. And so that's really fun. And that's just one of the ways you can use this stuff. What I do want to do for people listening and see if anybody takes it on, like I want to really quickly go through a process of like a prompt for the end user out there to maybe we get somebody to submit some cool graphics, maybe we put comments or something, I don't know, but like let's what's the best way to kind of give them a prompt,
come up with a prompt for our listeners,
listeners to, if you guys are listening and want to join in and see creative,
or if you're
outlet,
watching on YouTube,
or watching so this would be, I guess, maybe an art prompt in how we're potentially maybe looking at this output for it.
So I mean, normally you just pick the way we did for the
for the
game. You just draw a card out and you draw 1 from each deck.
Okay.
And let's see, we got character, farmer in the mountains. Oh, that's going to be interesting. And then we need time. So let's do summer.
Okay.
So
again, this is any which way you guys want to interpret this. And so if you guys want to like submit a graphic, or you guys want to just tag us on an Instagram post or something, you can always tag Always Making or Steadfast Rebels. But so we have farmer as a prompt
for our character.
The
situation
is an argument.
The reason
is hunger.
The location,
the mountains,
and the time is
summer.
So
my brain goes into farmer, famine. They're arguing between 2 other farms because they don't have enough because of the drought of the summer in the mountains. Like that's kind of where my head went right away. It's very linear of like what's there, but I'm like, okay, how could I like draw that and implicate it? I don't know yet. I didn't think that far ahead. But, but if you guys are listening and you want to try to see where this prompt takes you, like utilize this to be creative in that sense. But I think these are very cool. This goes to I've spoke about it before, but Inktober is where I do a big push on my drawing, and I love the idea of being free, of not like focusing in my direction of what I want to draw, but what I have to draw to fit these prompts. And so 31 day push of like, hey, here's this, like, what was the first one was, I think, hiking this year. So I drew a mouse with the back. Oh no, I think it was backpack. So I drew a mouse in hiking gear with a backpack, and it felt very Redwall. And I've never drawn a mouse in that style before. So I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then so finding these different things. But what I love about it is it's, sometimes as artists, we get stuck in our ways of what we want to create or how we create, and we draw the same thing over and over. But like when you are letting go of that and just letting something like this occur, then you're like, oh, I would have never drawn a farmer. I don't think I would have ever drawn like a hungry farmer.
Right?
In that sense. So now it's like, okay, if I really want to push what I can do creatively, like utilizing these tools to then push my boundaries of what I'm going to create. Again, Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and I went in a completely different direction because I've been reading lots of children's books with Juniper. And so I'm like, oh, this farmer is like having an argument with the pigs who are hungry because he went on summer vacation in the mountains and left the pigs on the farm.
Oh, that's great.
Something silly.
But yeah, I mean, that's another, again, there's endless possibilities with this whole thing. What I want to do and talk a little bit about how you came about everything that's in these decks, because like just seeing these decks and seeing the different pieces, how long did it take you to really like break down what you thought would be the best of these like prompts going forward?
So I came up with the who, what, where, when, and why, the reason, time, all of that, right? And then I just started making lists of all the things that fit into each of those categories. And then I tried to find the widest variety. And we did go through one iteration where I wanted to make it more family friendly. I think I had drug use as one of the prompts.
Yeah.
And I think death is still in there, but I mean, that's an important thing for families to be able to talk to each other about. But drug use, maybe not so much.
Great for stories and art, but maybe not for a family.
Right, exactly. So I ended up taking that one out and putting something else in, stuff like that. I have need for social approval. So that one actually prompted me to do my latest mixed media piece. I had written a poem years and years ago called Wildflowers and Weeds. And it's all about how, I've met roses and exotic buds, but it's the wildflowers and weeds that I enjoy the most. And so I pulled need for social approval, and I was like, wait a minute, that would make a good. So what you were saying about taking it very literally is really important, but also being able to, when you need to, take a step back and not take it so literally, you know? Yeah.
The thing I found, and I go back to the Inktober prompts because it was the way I would go. And sometimes it'd be like, dagger. Oh, okay, draw a dagger. And then sometimes it'd be like, oh, wait, this, it was like journey or something like that. And I'm like, wow, what do I think about this here? And like, how do I go? And then you kind of just break down. I don't remember what exactly the prompt was, but then it's completely, I like to write the descriptions in my like posts that I would post them, but I'm like, I got this out of like what this meant. And I know when I look at everyone else's stuff, there's such a variety. And that's the coolest part I think about that whole thing, is that like what someone interprets is completely different than the way I'm going to see it. It's the thing with books and like stories, and your characters to everybody looks different, right? Like until we see them in a movie, and then we go, oh, that's what Harry Potter looks like.
Right.
I mean, Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter. Let's just be real. But aside from his character,
I mean, when you first read the book, were you thinking Daniel Radcliffe was Harry Potter?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, he's Harry Potter. No, but even like with your Inktober, like I think one of the prompts was sun, and you drew a sun, but it was a very like sort of mystical, like very different sun than just like, sun up in the sky kind of.
Yeah, and kind of just, I was like, there's some things where I'm like, I'm gonna try a different style on this. I did like kind of like a Salvador Dali kind of attempt with something. I'm like, I've never drawn like this. What am I doing? Like, and then I'm like, I need to do something else. This is not. And then I'm like, screw it. Just keep pushing forward, get through it, and then like, hey, cool. This is what, like, the end result might not be perfect or exactly what I would have done, but I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone to get to that final result for it. With this, what I really, and you've probably already thought about this, and this is, but like when you said, hey, I pulled the drug use out of kind of like as a card prompt, but there are hundreds of different ways to go expansion packs.
That's what I was gonna ask.
I'm like, you've probably already thought, but I'm like thinking, oh man, you can go, I don't want to say X-rated, but you can go adult like oriented like kind of style, and
or even different genres like fantasy or sci-fi or I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, man, this would be so cool to have like different expansions or different decks.
My thought right away when you said like the card games and everything, I go to the game Cards Against Humanity because it's such a fun game, and there are so many expansion packs. We have, I think, almost all of them because it's so much fun. But it's the same way I could see where like you are, okay, you can't ever find the end of the results of this because it is endless with what you can think of. But you're like, okay, I feel like I've maybe seen these prompts again. Maybe I want to try something, and that next pack can be that thing that kind of drives that next creative outlet kind of thing.
The way that I've thought about the expansion packs is that like this is great for D&D. So expanding in a fantasy way.
Yeah.
It's great for teachers, so expanding in a educational way. Or it's really great for writers and makers and things like that. But it's also good for therapists to talk to their clients about
patients,
about what is going on in their brains. Like it gives them an excuse to talk about something that is hard for them to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously you thought about expansion packs, but I mean, I had to bring it up.
My brain was going the same place. I'm like, ooh, this would be fun to like have more like themed ones or genres or
because the possibilities really are endless with this. It's simple, but it is very a very helpful tool when you like the writer block or the creative block or like drawing block or any of those things where it's like, hey, let me just pull this out real quick and then think a different way of like how you want to approach that. Go ahead. You had something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was teaching a class yesterday and I was trying to impress upon the student how important it is. You have a vision when you create something, but you have to be flexible with that vision.
Yeah.
You have to push past your first solution because your first solution isn't always the best solution.
Yeah.
You have to push past and really like dig deep and that's part of.
Well, I mean, that's why we have like sketchbooks and like first drafts and stuff like that. It's there's times where I will like scribble out an idea and like put it into Illustrator and get it done. I'm like, cool, this is a t-shirt. I go, Chrissy, check this out. She goes, I'm like, well, shit, I didn't think about it. I'm like, I didn't think about it that way. Okay, maybe that. So like, it's always like, I used to work in a solitude in situation where I would not reach out to other people. But as I've grown with more creative people around me, it's so much better and so much more fruitful to go, hey, check out what I'm working on. What do you think? And then people are like, well, what if you did this? Or, hey, I thought about this, or this kind of, it helps so much. So it's the same thing. Like you're saying, like, this is a start. This is where you go. And then that next push and the next push. And it just gets better. There is a balance we do have to find where like you have to be okay with where that final result is. So you're not continuing to like revision.
Right.
Because perfect is like not perfect,
right?
In that sense.
Yep.
But it does help you get to a point where you go, okay, I've put enough time into this that I really do enjoy the way this goes. I wanted to ask you, because you have your community, out of some of the prompts that you've given or some of the like responses you've gotten, what are some of the like coolest things you've seen come from people using your cards?
So I have a story that a 12-year-old wrote.
Okay.
That is just priceless, and she drew a little picture to go with it, and it's about and it's been a long time since I've read it, but it's about this. Oh yeah, that's right. It's about this guy who had ambition, because one of the cards is ambition, to like have this huge house, like have the biggest house in the neighborhood, and he tried so hard for years and years and years to get all this money, and then I can't remember what happens at the end, but he realizes that ambition isn't all it's cracked up to be, and yeah, it's just a really great little story. And then we did a competition for illustrations for a set of prompts. And the person that won was an archaeological dig. Ooh. in a cave, and you could see the sunset in the background, because sunset was one of the prompts, and history was one of the prompts, and I can't remember all of the prompts that were related to that one, but it was a really cool illustration that they created for that prompt.
I am such a huge fan of like the idea of putting something like this out there and seeing the variety of things that come from it, because like we were just saying, it's like we all have different visions of how we interpret these things, but I think that is the coolest thing, because from doing a thing like this in a classroom where you're going to get different results from every single person, and that's, I think, the beauty of creativity. There is no right or wrong or rhyme to the reason of how we process what we see in that sense. what is the future goal for these? Like, what is the next step for Seeds of Creativity? Or I'm sorry, Seeds of Imagination.
It's all right. It's all right. So we actually just decided to do a challenge, kind of like Inktober. So
Okay.
it'll probably be March or April. I'm thinking I'm going to set up an event on Facebook, and we're going to pull one card each day. And I'm probably going to pull all the cards like Inktober, all the cards at the beginning, so that you have a list of, and you can kind of prep, gear your brain for what the next item is.
I appreciate when I have the prompts that month before, so I can kind of like go, okay, and then I can kind of start like drawing and kind of like figuring out what I want to go with. So that is helpful.
Yeah. So what I really want to encourage people is just spend 15 to 20 minutes a day doing something creative. It doesn't matter what it is. Do something creative related to the prompt for 15 minutes to a half an hour, and just make that a practice, just make it a habit.
Yeah. I mean, what will go the distance for a lot of people is that repetition of each day, 15, 20, 30 minutes of doing that thing. Like, I get guilty of it where I go, okay, I've drawn for Inktober for 31 days. I take like a month off.
Yeah.
And then I come back to it. I'm like, oh man, I'm like rusty. But like, if you can just, you don't have to dedicate hours and hours and hours to it. That 15, 20, maybe half an hour to it is beneficial to like your skill and your craft. And it's the rule of it's 10,000 hours for like to become the great, like, I forget how the quote goes, but
expert.
It's something. But like I look around and like the stuff we do, I'm like, have I put 10,000 hours into anything that we've done? Like, I'm like, I know I've done a lot of different like productions, and I'm like, I don't know where that actual number is for some of these things.
Well, it's the same like law of motion, right? A body in motion stays in motion, a body at rest stays at rest. So if you just kind of do something like this to like kickstart yourself, the idea is that you hopefully will keep going.
Yeah. And what I really want is at the end for people to share their progress. Like, it's not about the end product. It's about where you started and where you ended up.
Yes, the journey.
Yeah. I do feel that first month that I go, or that month that I go, like where the start to like the pieces at the end, I'm like, I learned a lot this month.
Well, even this last month, you even said to me, you said like, oh, I was trying like different techniques and different brushes and just experimenting. And you were like, oh, I've got this new like process I came up with through doing these drawings that I want to like use for our future artwork.
Yeah. What's fun and what I love about like challenging yourself for that month and giving like those kind of prompts is what we do with it afterwards. Like, just because it's done, it's like for that day when you finish that prompt doesn't mean that's the final result. I'm right now, I just did a new t-shirt design, and like me and Chrissy have been kind of going back and forth on it, but it's from one of the things I drew from Inktober. And so we do a lot of our stuff comes from that month of like really focusing and like getting stuff and going, hey, you know what, that's a t-shirt. Like our ghost graphic that we have. I'm like trying to look around the room if I have one lying around, but we put it on a hat, but it's 4 years old. I drew it now. And so like we've put it on a hat with glow in the dark embroidery stuff. And I'm like, that was something cool. Just this year. We're like, this is
right there.
I was like, there's a ghost over there. But it's one of those like, I've had this drawing. I've like done some prints for it. I've done some stuff, but I'm like, you know what? We can screen print this with some glow in the dark ink. Oh, that's really cool. Hey, we can embroider this with some glow in the dark thread. Oh, hey, shoot, we have a whole line of ghost things now that I'm like,
now we've got shirt, hat, shirt,
and
stickers.
So one of the things, and I don't know if I'll get to it this year. I want to. I really I'm trying. But one of the prompts was a guide, and I did a Mothman like in a very like cartoony character, and I'm like, man, if I did like this whole Mothman alphabet guide, because the like Juniper is an influence now of what we do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could do like a cryptid A to Z book for like kids. And I'm like, I could draw these. I could maybe do it. So I'm like, that's like on the back burner of like ideas that I want to go through from that first prompt. That was like, it wasn't cryptid. It wasn't like Mothman. It was guide. And so I'm like, I drew a Mothman. And I'm like, but that's how quickly something like this can grow to a bigger piece by just taking that simple first step.
Exactly.
Let's go back just a little bit. Back to your art, and how has that allowed now, like this kind of outlet to now allow you to like create new things with your art? How does it make it easier, or does it like, are you now going, oh, I have to have prompts to kind of get me in this direction?
No. So I was working on, I'm actually going to enter the Ogden City Arts community art show.
Awesome.
So I'm working on a diorama for that, and I was talking to my mom about it, and I'm like, well, I really need to do something different. I need to push a little bit further. And she's like, your dioramas are awesome. You don't have to do something extra, because they are extra. And I'm like, well, I don't know. And so, yeah, I mean, my brain is always pushing to that next step. And so, yeah, the cards, I use them like I did the need for social approval. I use them periodically. I use them more for writing than I do my art, actually. But I definitely want to do some expansion packs. It's a matter of finding the first one. Like, I have to figure out what the market is for the first one.
Yeah.
And then move forward.
Go from there. So how long have these been on the market now?
Since 2020.
2020, the campaign ended, and you got those out that year, and going from that. So what has been some of the feedback you've like gotten from some of the people who've already gotten their hands on these and are using them? What's some of the feedback you've gotten on them?
So I would say that probably the most feedback is they like the games the best.
Okay.
For myself, I have to actually demo how to use them, because they sit on the shelf at the collective and nobody understands.
Yeah. Right.
And so I go for almost every first Friday and demo how to use them, and I sell 3 or 4 decks every first Friday. Awesome. And yeah, so it's getting them in the hands of the people to start them using them before they actually understand them. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if Christy's got something to say.
Well, I know we talked a little bit about the community aspect.
Yes.
But I know that was something that you really wanted to highlight as well. So it's tell me again, infinite options.
The cards are called infinite option storytelling prompts, but we shorten it and just go with seeds.
Okay.
They're seeds.
So Seeds of Imagination is the Facebook group, and anybody can join.
You have to agree to the group rules,
of course,
but
sure.
Yeah, anybody can join. And we have an Instagram, and then I also have my artist Instagram, Casey Peak, and I have my webpage and Etsy shop.
Awesome.
And it's all Seeds of Imagination. Yep.
So I was just gonna say, so what kind of things can you find in the Facebook group? What kind of like community is what is there going on? What's happening in the group? people share like random things that they find on the internet, and then it inspires them to create other things. And we have had people say, well, that's obviously AI. Well, yeah, but I mean, it inspires you, right? Like, it doesn't matter whether it was actually real. It inspires you to do something more and fun and exciting. So yeah, and create something yourself.
Yeah, there is a negative like tone right now to the AI world and how it is potentially. But I like to tell people it's a tool that helps push you like further kind of thing. You don't have to use AI, and don't go and sell AI product and think like you're gonna be the next like big artist. No, like what it's there for is to make like sometimes choices easier, simpler. Like I can't think this through. Maybe, hey, you know what? Let me type this out real quick, and then I go, oh, it gives me this idea to then go, okay, I can take that to my concept now that I'm gonna go through. And it's a tough battle. Like it is a very tough situation. I like it as a tool to add to my tool belt. It is not the main tool that is going to drive everything we do. I still like, we are not going away as artists. Like that is like we are needed. We have way more creative things than what AI is going to ever be able to pump out. Like they can't get hands right. Like,
yeah,
Still,
right.
still.
like if they're that powerful and you can't get hands right, like you're not
Hands
that powerful.
Are hard. Your hands are hard. No, but it's true. Artificial intelligence is artificial, and I don't think that like it will ever reach a point where it's going to replicate or replace humans entirely.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
At least I hope not.
But I do understand some people's pushback with it.
certainly.
But it's always a thing like, hey, like a tool. Look at it as a tool, not the end all be all in that kind of situation.
Exactly.
But community wise, you've done a lot for this community here with these pieces. You're growing it day by day, and expansion packs are on the way. It sounds like. Again, I want to make sure everyone who's listening has a chance to see what you are doing and learn more about it. And so that Instagram handle, the Facebook group handle, what is that, all that again, so that people can go check it out and see.
Seeds of Imagination cards.
Okay.
And I also do a community craft night on the second Tuesday of the month at the local artisan collective. So anybody can come. We just work on our projects
And hang out.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So
Love it.
very cool. Is there anything we might have missed in this conversation today and that you wanted to make sure we got out there to the people?
No, just go create.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely go create. Be creative, guys. I mean, it's not hard. But it is really hard sometimes. But hey, there's cards to help you with your creative process. But I do want to say thank you for coming down, trusting us in our basement to have this conversation, show us these awesome prompts that giving people a creative like outlook on being able to like continue their creative journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, go check it out. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, go see, join the community, bring something like this to your community. Like that is the cool thing. But again,
And if you do follow the prompts that we gave earlier, make sure you tag us so we can see what you make.
Yeah, very cool. But guys, that's going to conclude today's show. Thank you, Casey, for being on the episode with us. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Bye. Thanks.